Even the ritualistic use of oils, particularly in religious ceremonies and mummification, underscores their perceived power and importance. Oils were seen as purifying, protective, and even life-giving. This spiritual significance would have further reinforced their daily application, imbuing the act of oiling the skin with a deeper meaning beyond mere physical protection. You can imagine the priests, their bodies gleaming with sacred oils, performing rituals under the watchful eye of Ra, the sun god. So, as you observe the ancient Egyptians, you see that their defense against the sun was multifaceted, extending far beyond personal adornment. It was woven into the very fabric of their urban planning, their architectural design, and their daily routines. Their homes were not just shelters, they were climate-controlled sanctuaries, meticulously crafted to provide relief from the relentless power of Ra. And as the sun dips lower, casting long, dramatic shadows across the ancient landscape, you feel a profound respect for their ingenuity, their ability to live in harmony with the most powerful forces of nature, creating pockets of coolness and comfort in a world defined by heat and light. This isn't your average beach day, folks. This is ancient Egypt, a land forged by the sun, where life itself was dictated by its relentless march across the sky. And let me tell you, without the benefit of air conditioning, refrigerated drinks, or even a decent pair of sunglasses, you probably wouldn't survive a single afternoon out there without some serious consequences. Your skin, accustomed to the gentle glow of indoor lighting and occasional outdoor excursions, would quickly turn a rather alarming shade of lobster. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, if you're listening, drop a comment with your location and local time. It's always wild to see where these sleepy stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've explored the architectural havens and daily rhythms that shielded the ancient Egyptians from the sun. Now, as you observe the people more closely, your gaze drifts upwards to their heads. You notice the elaborate hairstyles, the intricate braids, and, most strikingly, the prevalence of wigs and headwear. This wasn't just about fashion or social status. It was a crucial, often overlooked layer of sun protection, shielding the delicate scalp and face from the relentless Egyptian sun. You're there, in ancient Egypt, feeling the sun's unyielding gaze. It's not just hot, it's a dry, pervasive heat that seems to suck every drop of moisture from your body. The sky above is an almost impossibly clear, brilliant blue, devoid of clouds that might offer even a fleeting moment of respite. The air itself feels thick, heavy with the weight of the sun's energy. You can almost hear the silent sizzle of the desert floor, absorbing and radiating heat back up in a relentless cycle. Imagine the feeling of the sun beating down directly on your head, even through your hair. Now picture the relief of a thick, carefully constructed wig, or a flowing headcloth, providing a dense canopy of shade. The ancient Egyptians understood that the scalp, being directly exposed, was particularly vulnerable to sunburn and heat stroke. Their solutions were both practical and aesthetically pleasing, a testament to their ingenuity in adapting to their environment. For the ancient Egyptians, the sun wasn't merely a meteorological phenomenon, it was Ra, the supreme creator god, the giver of life, and the ultimate source of power. His daily journey across the sky was a cosmic drama, a testament to order and creation. But even a benevolent deity can be harsh. The very light that brought forth the bountiful harvests of the Nile also brought the threat of scorched skin, painful blisters, and long-term damage that, while not fully understood in its scientific complexity, was certainly observed in its agonizing effects. Imagine trying to work in the fields, building monumental structures, or simply going about your daily life under such an intense, unfiltered glare. It wasn't just discomfort, it was a constant, debilitating challenge. Let's start with wigs. These weren't just for the elite. While the most elaborate and expensive wigs were certainly a status symbol, simpler versions were worn by a wide range of people. Wigs were typically made from human hair, palm fibers, or even plant leaves, meticulously braided and woven onto a mesh or cap. The sheer density of these wigs provided an excellent barrier against the sun's rays. Think of it as a built-in, breathable helmet, designed to keep your head cool and protected. You might see a noblewoman, her head adorned with a heavy, shoulder-length wig, its dark strands shimmering in the light, providing a deep, inviting shadow over her face and neck. The concept of sunburn as we know it, with its scientific understanding of UV radiation, was, of course, unknown to them. Yet the physical manifestation, the redness, the peeling, the pain, was undeniably real. They understood the connection between prolonged sun exposure and skin damage through direct, lived experience. You see the farmers, their faces leathery and deeply tanned, their eyes often squinting from years of facing the glare. You notice the subtle differences in skin tone between those who toil outdoors and those who spend more time within the cool confines of temples or elite homes. It's a stark visual reminder of the sun's power. The dark color of many wigs, often black or dark brown, might seem counterintuitive for sun protection, as dark colors absorb heat. However, the thickness and air circulation within the wig, combined with the fact that it was often worn over a shaved head or very short hair, meant that the heat was absorbed by the wig itself, rather than directly by the scalp. The wig acted as an insulating layer, trapping a pocket of cooler air between the wig and the scalp, much like a modern hat. Plus, the sheer volume of the wig created significant shade for the face, neck, and shoulders, reducing overall sun exposure. Think about the daily grind. You're a laborer, perhaps hauling stones for a new temple. The sun beats down on your bare back, turning your skin a deep, ruddy brown. Sweat pours from you, evaporating almost instantly in the dry air, leaving behind a salty residue. The sand beneath your sandals is scorching, and even the shade of a passing cloud, if one were to appear, would feel like a miracle. This wasn't just about looking good. It was about survival, about maintaining the health and integrity of your skin in an environment that actively sought to degrade it. A severe sunburn could incapacitate you, making work impossible. And in a society where your labor was your livelihood, that was a serious threat. Beyond wigs, various forms of headwear were ubiquitous. Men often wore simple headcloths, tied in various styles, or skull caps. Women wore more elaborate head coverings, sometimes draped over their wigs, providing additional layers of protection. These head coverings, often made of linen, would have been light and breathable, allowing for air circulation while still blocking the sun. You see a farmer in the fields, his head wrapped in a simple white linen cloth, its folds creating a protective barrier against the harsh glare. It's a simple yet highly effective piece of attire. The Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, offered some relief, but even its waters, when reflecting the sun, could intensify the exposure. You might seek refuge in its cool embrace, but emerging from it, wet and exposed, could accelerate the burning process. The very air, though dry, held a certain oppressive weight, a silent testament to the sun's dominion. The iconic Nemes headdress, worn by pharaohs with its striped pattern and cobra urias, was not just a symbol of royalty, it too offered substantial shade and protection for the head and neck. While ceremonial, its design inherently incorporated practical elements of sun avoidance. You can imagine the sheer weight and thickness of such a headdress, providing a formidable barrier against the sun's rays. One common historical fact you might recall about ancient Egypt is their profound connection to the Nile River. It wasn't just a river, it was their entire ecosystem, their highway, their food source, and their spiritual guide. Its annual inundation brought fertile silt, allowing life to flourish in an otherwise arid land. But even with the Nile's bounty, the sun remained an ever-present force, drying out the land, baking the mud brick, and constantly challenging human endurance. The lushness of the riverbanks contrasted sharply with the harsh, sun-baked desert just beyond, a vivid illustration of the sun's dual nature, creator and destroyer. Even the practice of shaving the head was linked to sun protection. While it might seem counterintuitive to shave your head in a hot, sunny climate, it was a common practice, particularly among the elite. A shaved head was easier to keep clean and free of lice, a significant concern in ancient times. More importantly, it allowed for the comfortable wearing of wigs. Without a thick mass of natural hair to trap heat, the scalp could breathe, and the wig could provide a clean, insulating layer. It was a practical solution, allowing for both hygiene and effective sun protection. You might see a priest, his head smoothly shaven, preparing to don a ceremonial wig, appreciating the coolness of his scalp before the added layer of protection. Now, for a lesser-known detail, did you know that the ancient Egyptians were incredibly meticulous about personal hygiene and appearance? Not just for aesthetic reasons, but also for practical health benefits. This extended to their skin. While we might focus on their elaborate makeup for religious or social purposes, many of these concoctions had inherent protective qualities. They weren't just slapping on kohl to define their eyes. Some of these substances, particularly those containing lead compounds, may have offered a primitive form of physical sunblock, reflecting harmful rays. It's a fascinating overlap between beauty and utility, a testament to their ingenuity. You can almost imagine an ancient Egyptian woman carefully applying a thick, dark paste around her eyes, not just to enhance her beauty for a festival, but also to reduce the glare and protect the delicate skin around her eyes from the relentless desert sun. It's a subtle yet profound act of self-preservation. Hair care itself was also a meticulous process. Even if not entirely shaved, natural hair was often kept short or braided tightly to minimize tangles and keep it close to the head, making it easier to manage and less likely to become a heat trap. Various oils and unguents, which we discussed earlier, were also applied to the hair and scalp, not just for conditioning and fragrance, but also to provide a minor barrier against the sun and to prevent dryness. Imagine a fine, fragrant oil being massaged into the scalp, soothing and protecting it from the elements. The need for sun protection wasn't merely a matter of comfort, it was deeply intertwined with their understanding of health, beauty, and even social status. Pale skin, particularly for women, was often associated with higher social standing, suggesting a life spent indoors, away from the harsh labor of the fields. This led to a cultural preference for lighter complexions, further incentivizing methods to avoid tanning. You see this reflected in tomb paintings, where elite women are often depicted with significantly lighter skin tones than men or laborers. It wasn't just an artistic convention, it was a subtle nod to their lifestyle and perceived status. One common historical fact you might recall is that ancient Egyptian barbers were highly skilled and respected professionals. They didn't just cut hair, they were involved in the elaborate process of wig making and maintenance, as well as the daily grooming rituals of the elite. Their expertise was crucial for ensuring both the aesthetic appeal and the practical effectiveness of these head coverings. You can almost hear the rhythmic snip of shears and the quiet hum of conversation in an ancient barber shop, a hub of personal care and social interaction. The very rhythm of their day was dictated by the sun. Work often began at dawn, before the sun reached its zenith, and paused during the hottest parts of the afternoon, resuming in the cooler late afternoon or evening. This natural adaptation to the environment was a fundamental, albeit unspoken, strategy for sun avoidance. Imagine the intense heat of midday, forcing everyone, from the lowliest farmer to the highest priest, to seek shade and rest. The entire society seemed to breathe in sync with the sun's intensity. A collective dance of survival. Now, for a lesser-known detail about wigs. Did you know that some wigs were designed with a hollow interior or a looser weave to enhance airflow and cooling? While many were thick and dense, others were constructed with a keen understanding of ventilation, allowing for greater comfort in the scorching heat. These lighter, more breathable wigs might have been preferred for daily wear, while the heavier, more elaborate ones were reserved for ceremonial occasions. It's a subtle but important distinction, showing their nuanced approach to design. You might notice the subtle difference in texture and weight between a ceremonial wig depicted in a tomb painting and a more practical, everyday wig from an archaeological find, a testament to their adaptive craftsmanship. The relentless exposure also meant that skin conditions were likely prevalent. Rashes, dryness, and premature aging would have been common observations. While they didn't have dermatologists or modern treatments, their remedies and preventative measures were born out of centuries of trial and error, passed down through generations. They learned what worked, even if they didn't understand the underlying science. The social implications of wigs and headwear were also significant. A well-maintained wig or an elaborate head covering not only protected you from the sun, but also signaled your status and wealth. The quality of the materials, the intricacy of the braiding, and the sheer size of the wig all spoke volumes about the wearer's position in society. Those who could afford to shave their heads and wear elaborate wigs were demonstrating their ability to live a life of relative leisure away from the harsh outdoor labor that would necessitate simpler, more utilitarian forms of protection. Were they truly experimenting with properties of plants and minerals? Or were they simply using what felt good and seemed to work, without a deeper theoretical understanding? The truth, as often is the case, probably lies somewhere in the middle. Their observations were keen, their methods often effective, even if their explanations were rooted in magic and mythology rather than modern chemistry. You can almost hear the hushed discussions in ancient workshops, as artisans and healers mixed various ingredients, observing the effects and refining their techniques over centuries. It was a slow, iterative process of discovery, driven by the immediate and pressing need to protect themselves from the sun's relentless assault. Was the primary motivation behind the widespread use of wigs and headwear a deliberate strategy for sun protection? Or was it primarily a fashion and status statement, with the protective benefits being a secondary, albeit welcome, advantage? It's a fascinating question that delves into the intersection of utility, aesthetics, and social dynamics. It's likely a blend of all three, where practical needs gave rise to initial solutions, which then evolved into symbols of status and beauty. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among scholars, poring over ancient texts and analyzing depictions in art, trying to decipher the true motivations behind these ancient head coverings. It's a complex interplay of practicality and cultural expression. The intensity of the sun also influenced their clothing choices, their architecture, and even their daily routines. Every aspect of their lives, from the orientation of their temples to the materials they used for their homes, bore the imprint of the sun's powerful presence. You walk through the narrow, winding streets of a mud brick village, noticing how the tall, close-set buildings create deep, inviting shadows. The doorways are often small, and the interiors are designed to remain cool, a stark contrast to the blazing world outside. It's a testament to their ingenuity, a society built not just around the river, but in careful consideration of the sun. The sun was both a blessing and a challenge, a force that shaped their very existence and compelled them to develop ingenious ways to live in harmony with its formidable power. Even the way children were protected from the sun speaks to the importance of head coverings. You might see depictions of children with shaved heads, sometimes with a single lock of hair remaining the side lock of youth, and often wearing small caps or headcloths. This early introduction to head protection underscores its fundamental importance from a young age. It was a lesson learned early, a habit ingrained from childhood, a testament to the constant threat of the sun. You're still there, feeling the lingering heat from the desert sun. But now, a subtle shift occurs. You notice the fabric draped around you, and around everyone else. It's not the heavy, woolly material you might associate with colder climates, nor the tight synthetic weaves of your modern world. No, here, in ancient Egypt, you are enveloped in linen. This isn't just any fabric, it's the breathable shield, the silent guardian against the sun's relentless assault, and a testament to the Egyptians' profound understanding of their environment. So, as you continue to observe the ancient Egyptians, you realize that their heads, often adorned with such care and artistry, were also fortresses against the sun. The wigs, the headwear, and even the practices of hair care were all part of a sophisticated, multi-layered defense system. They understood that, in their own way, that protecting the head was paramount in a land where the sun reigned supreme. And as the day slowly gives way to the cooler evening, you feel a profound respect for their ingenuity, their ability to combine practicality with elegance, creating solutions that were both effective and beautiful in their sun-drenched world. Imagine the feel of it against your skin. It's light, almost ethereal, a whisper of coolness in the oppressive heat. As you move, a gentle breeze, however slight, seems to pass right through the weave, offering a fleeting moment of relief. You see it everywhere wrapped around the bodies of laborers, flowing gracefully from the shoulders of nobles, even swaddling the mummified dead. Linen is ubiquitous, and for good reason. It's the ultimate climate-appropriate clothing, a marvel of ancient textile technology. You've seen the linen, the coal, the oils, and the shaded architecture, even the wigs and headwear. Now, as you continue to observe the ancient Egyptians, your focus shifts to something less visible but equally vital to their diet. It might seem strange to link food with sun protection, but the ancient Egyptians, through centuries of empirical knowledge, likely understood that what you put into your body could influence how your skin reacted to the relentless sun. This was their dietary defense, a subtle yet powerful strategy for fostering inner radiance and resilience against the elements. Think about your own experience with summer clothing. You reach for cotton, maybe a light synthetic blend, anything to avoid feeling stifled. The ancient Egyptians had linen, and they perfected its use. They knew, instinctively or through centuries of observation, that linen fibers derived from the flax plant are hollow. This unique structure allows air to circulate freely, wicking away moisture from your skin and facilitating evaporative cooling. You can almost feel the difference as you stand there. The linen shirt you're wearing feeling far less clingy and hot than a modern cotton tee would in this searing heat. It's like a natural air conditioner, a subtle, constant current of air moving over your skin, carrying away the heat and sweat. Imagine sitting down to a meal in an ancient Egyptian home. The air is filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread, perhaps a stew simmering with lentils and vegetables, and the sweet scent of dates. You see bowls of figs, grapes, and pomegranates, all vibrant with color. This wasn't just sustenance, it was a carefully balanced intake of nutrients, many of which, unbeknownst to them, contained compounds that could offer a degree of natural photoprotection. You pick up a plump date, its sweetness a burst of energy, and consider how this simple fruit might contribute to your skin's defense. The color, too, plays a crucial role. While some linen might be dyed, the vast majority you see is its natural, undyed state, a pristine, almost bleached white or a soft, creamy off-white. This isn't just for aesthetics, though it certainly looks elegant. White, as you know, reflects sunlight. It bounces those harsh, burning rays away from your body, preventing them from being absorbed and turning your clothing into a heat trap. You notice how the white garments seem to shimmer in the intense light, almost glowing, a stark contrast to the dark, heat-absorbing sands. It's a simple yet profoundly effective strategy. Think about the staples of their diet. Grains, primarily barley and emmer wheat, formed the foundation. These were used to make bread and beer, both consumed daily. While not directly sun protective, they provided essential carbohydrates and some B vitamins. More importantly, it's the fruits, vegetables, and certain other foods that hold the key to their inner sun defense. You watch as a woman grinds grain, the rhythmic sound a constant backdrop to daily life, providing the energy for a sun-exposed existence. Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, to a time when the sun wasn't just a warm friend, but an omnipresent, often unforgiving, deity. Imagine, if you will, standing on the banks of the Nile, the air shimmering with heat, the golden rays beating down with an intensity that would make your modern-day SPF 50 feel like a mere suggestion. You feel the fine dust of the desert clinging to your skin, the scent of the river mingling with the dry, earthy aroma of ancient mud brick. The sun is a constant, blinding presence, reflecting off the vast, undulating sands that stretch endlessly towards the horizon. You squint, trying to make out the distant palm trees, their fronds barely swaying in the still, hot air. Every breath you take feels warm, almost pre-baked, and the thought of a cool, shaded spot becomes an obsession, a primal need. Consider the abundance of fruits and vegetables. The fertile Nile Valley allowed for a rich variety. Figs, dates, grapes, pomegranates, melons, onions, garlic, lettuce, cucumbers, and various legumes like lentils and chickpeas. Many of these are rich in antioxidants, such as vitamins C and E and various carotenoids like beta-carotene, found in carrots. Though carrots as we know them weren't common, other yellow-orange plants were. These compounds are known in modern science to help neutralize free radicals generated by UV radiation, thus reducing cellular damage and inflammation in the skin. You bite into a crisp piece of lettuce, feeling its refreshing coolness, and ponder the unseen benefits it offers to your skin. Consider the sheer volume of linen produced. The flax plant was a cornerstone of the Egyptian economy, cultivated extensively along the fertile banks of the Nile. You see fields of it, swaying gently in the breeze, their delicate blue flowers a beautiful sight against the green landscape. From these humble plants came the fibers that clothed an entire civilization, from pharaohs to peasants. The process of turning flax into linen was laborious, involving retting soaking the stalks to separate the fibers, scutching beating to remove woody parts, heckling combing, spinning, and weaving. It was a true industry, employing countless hands, all contributing to this essential protective barrier. The Egyptians also consumed a fair amount of fish from the Nile. While not as rich in omega-3 fatty acids as deep sea fish, Nile fish would have provided some essential fats and proteins. These fatty acids are known to have anti-inflammatory properties and contribute to skin barrier function, making the skin more resilient to environmental stressors, including sun exposure. You see fishermen casting their nets, bringing in the day's catch, a vital source of nutrition that subtly bolstered their defenses. The way they wore linen was also key. You rarely see tight, restrictive clothing. Instead, garments are loose, flowing, and draped. Men often wear simple kilts or tunics, while women wear long, sheath-like dresses that allow for maximum airflow. The fabric isn't clinging to your body, trapping heat. Instead, it billows slightly, creating a small pocket of air between the fabric and your skin, further enhancing the cooling effect. It's a design philosophy born out of necessity, a fashion statement dictated by the climate. You watch a woman walk by, her white linen dress flowing around her, a vision of cool elegance in the sweltering afternoon. It looks effortless, but it's a deliberate design choice honed over millennia. Honey was another important part of their diet, used as a sweetener and for its medicinal properties. Honey is a natural antioxidant and has anti-inflammatory effects, which could have contributed to overall skin health and resilience. You taste the rich sweetness of honey, perhaps drizzled over a piece of bread, and appreciate its multifaceted benefits. Even the layering of linen served a purpose. While it might seem counterintuitive to wear multiple layers in the heat, thin layers of linen could actually create an insulating barrier, trapping a layer of cooler air close to the skin and preventing the external heat from penetrating directly. It's a bit like how desert dwellers today might wear multiple thin robes. You might see a priest, for instance, wearing several layers of fine, almost translucent linen, each layer contributing to a microclimate of coolness beneath his robes. One common historical fact you might know is that beer was a fundamental part of the ancient Egyptian diet, consumed by adults and children alike. It was a source of calories, hydration, and some nutrients, and was safer to drink than often contaminated water. While not a direct sun protectant, its role in their daily sustenance meant it was part of the overall dietary context that supported their health in a challenging environment. You see workers taking a break, sipping from clay jars of beer, a refreshing and nourishing drink that fueled their labor under the sun. One common historical fact about linen is its incredible durability. You might think of ancient textiles as fragile, but linen, especially high-quality linen, is remarkably strong and long-lasting. This is why so much of it has survived in tombs, preserving not just the fabric itself, but also the intricate weaving techniques and the very essence of ancient Egyptian life. It could withstand the rigors of daily wear, repeated washings, and the harsh desert environment, making it an ideal material for clothing that needed to last. Imagine wearing the same garment, perhaps for years, relying on its strength and protective qualities day in and day out. Now, for a lesser-known detail about their dietary practices, did you know that the ancient Egyptians consumed a plant called tiger nut Cyperus esculentus? These small, wrinkly tubers were a significant part of their diet, often found in tombs. Tiger nuts are rich in antioxidants, particularly vitamin E, and also contain healthy fats. They were often ground into flour or eaten raw. This ancient superfood, while perhaps not explicitly recognized for its sun-protective qualities by the Egyptians, would have provided a powerful internal defense against oxidative stress caused by sun exposure. You might stumble upon a small pile of these unassuming tubers, realizing their hidden power as a dietary shield. Now, for a lesser-known detail about linen. Did you know that the Egyptians also used linen for its perceived hygienic properties? Beyond its cooling and sun-protective qualities, linen was believed to be inherently cleaner than other materials, less prone to harboring pests or developing unpleasant odors. This made it particularly suitable for undergarments and for wrapping the dead, where purity was paramount. You can imagine the practical benefits in a hot climate where cleanliness was a constant challenge. The smooth, non-allergenic fibers would have been a blessing in a world without modern detergents and sanitizers. It's a subtle nod to their holistic approach to well-being, where comfort, protection, and hygiene were all intertwined. The concept of internal cleanliness and balance was also important in Egyptian medicine. While they didn't have a modern understanding of vitamins or antioxidants, they recognized that certain foods contributed to overall well-being, which would naturally include skin health. A healthy body, nourished from within, would be better equipped to withstand external stressors. You see the priests and healers prescribing certain foods for various ailments, a testament to their belief in the power of diet. The meticulous care they gave to their linen also speaks volumes. You see women washing linen in the Nile, beating it on stones, and spreading it out to dry in the sun, which, ironically, also helped to bleach it to that dazzling white. The whiter the linen, the more effective it was at reflecting the sun, and perhaps, the more prestigious it was considered. This constant cleaning and maintenance ensured the fabric remained effective and comfortable. It wasn't a throwaway item, it was a valuable, essential part of their daily lives. Treated with respect and care, the preparation methods also played a role. Many foods were consumed raw or lightly cooked, preserving their nutrient content. Fermentation, as in the case of beer, could also enhance nutrient availability. The emphasis on fresh, seasonal produce meant a constant supply of nutrient-dense foods. You watch a woman preparing a meal, her hands deftly peeling fruits and chopping vegetables, ensuring the freshness and potency of the ingredients. Was it purely a practical choice based on its superior cooling and protective qualities? Or did its association with purity, ritual, and even the afterlife elevate its status beyond mere utility? It's likely a combination of both, where practical benefits reinforced cultural significance, creating a deeply ingrained preference for this remarkable fiber. You can almost hear the discussions among scholars, poring over ancient texts and tomb paintings, trying to decipher the full spectrum of linen's meaning in Egyptian society. It's a complex tapestry of utility and symbolism, woven into the very fabric of their civilization. Was there a conscious understanding among the ancient Egyptians that certain foods could directly protect their skin from the sun? Or were the sun protective benefits merely an accidental byproduct of their generally healthy and nutrient-rich diet? It's a subtle but important distinction. It's likely that they observed overall health benefits from their diet, and that these benefits, including skin resilience, were simply part of a holistic understanding of well-being, without a specific scientific link to UV radiation. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among scholars, analyzing ancient dietary records and comparing them with modern nutritional science, trying to decipher the true extent of their knowledge. It's a fascinating intersection of ancient wisdom and modern understanding. You continue to observe the people around you, clad in their various forms of linen. The simplicity of the designs belies the sophistication of their understanding. They didn't need scientific papers or laboratory tests to know that linen worked. They felt it, they lived it, and they thrived because of it. The way the light plays off the white fabric, the subtle rustle as someone walks by, the feeling of air circulating against your skin, it all speaks to a profound harmony between humanity and its environment. Even the ritualistic offerings of food to the gods speak to the importance of their diet. The finest produce, the freshest fish, the purest honey, these were deemed worthy of the divine. This reverence for food underscores its central role in their lives, not just for survival, but for spiritual well-being, which would naturally extend to physical health. You see a priest placing an offering of figs and bread on an altar, a symbolic act that also acknowledges the life-sustaining power of these foods. Even the pharaohs, with all their wealth and power, relied on linen. Their elaborate ceremonial garments, while often adorned with gold and precious stones, were still fundamentally made of this humble flax fiber. It underscores the universal importance of linen in Egyptian society. Transcending social strata, you might see a depiction of a pharaoh, resplendent in his regalia, and realize that beneath all the grandeur, he too is protected by the same simple, effective fabric that clothes the common laborer. The absence of highly processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats in their diet. which are common in modern diets, would have also contributed to better overall health and skin condition. Their diet was largely whole, natural, and locally sourced, minimizing inflammatory responses and supporting robust cellular function. You reflect on the simplicity of their meals, a stark contrast to the complex, often unhealthy, food choices of today. The very act of wearing linen was a daily ritual of adaptation. It was a constant, gentle reminder of the sun's presence and the need to mitigate its effects. You feel the coolness of it, the way it moves with you, never restricting, always protecting. It's a quiet comfort, a subtle reassurance in a land defined by its extremes. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows across the desert, you appreciate the wisdom of the ancients, their ability to live in harmony with the forces of nature, even the most powerful and demanding ones. The linen, your silent companion, continues its work, a testament to enduring ingenuity. So, as you delve into the dietary habits of the ancient Egyptians, you realize that their defense against the sun wasn't just external. It was also deeply internal, nourished by the bounty of the Nile. Their food, rich in natural compounds, provided a subtle but significant layer of protection, helping their skin to withstand the relentless power of Ra from within. And as the day slowly gives way to the cooler evening, you feel a profound respect for their ancient wisdom, their ability to thrive in a world so different, yet so fundamentally connected to your own. By understanding the power of what they ate, you're still in ancient Egypt, the white linen a comforting whisper against your skin. But now your attention shifts from the practicalities of clothing to the intriguing world of ancient Egyptian cosmetics. It's not just about looking good here, it's about protection, status, and a profound connection to the divine. You watch as a woman meticulously applies a dark, shimmering paste around her eyes, her movements precise and practiced. This isn't just makeup, it's a multi-purpose marvel, a shield against the sun's harsh glare and a testament to their sophisticated understanding of natural ingredients. You've journeyed through the practical defenses of ancient Egypt, the protective linen, the cosmetic shields, the nourishing oils, the clever architecture, the smart headwear, and even the subtle dietary resilience. Now, as you delve deeper into their world, you begin to understand that for the ancient Egyptians, the sun wasn't just a physical force to be managed, it was a divine entity, a powerful god whose favor was sought and whose wrath was feared. This brings us to their divine intervention and solar deities, a fascinating realm where religious belief intertwined with the very real need for sun protection. Imagine the scents wafting through the air, rich, earthy aromas of minerals, subtle floral notes from ground plants, and the faint sweetness of various resins. The ancient Egyptians were masters of botanical and mineral alchemy, transforming raw materials into an array of unguents, powders, and pastes. You see jars and pots of various sizes, some made of alabaster, others of faience, all holding these precious concoctions. The sheer variety is astonishing, from the dark kohl that defines the eyes to the reddish ochre that stains the lips and cheeks, and the various oils that glisten on the skin. Imagine standing in a grand temple, the air thick with incense, the walls adorned with vibrant hieroglyphs depicting gods and pharaohs. The sun, even here, finds its way in, casting shafts of light through high windows, illuminating the sacred space. But here, the sun is not just a source of heat. It is Ra, the supreme creator, the giver of life, and the ultimate embodiment of cosmic order. His daily journey across the sky was not merely a celestial event, but a perilous voyage through the underworld each night, only to be reborn each morning, bringing light and life anew. This cyclical rebirth was central to their understanding of existence, and Ra, the sun god, was at its very heart. Let's talk about kohl, perhaps the most iconic ancient Egyptian cosmetic. You've seen it in countless depictions of pharaohs and queens, those striking, elongated eyes that seem to gaze across millennia. But kohl wasn't just for dramatic effect. It was a powerful sunblock, particularly for the delicate skin around the eyes. Imagine the blinding glare reflecting off the desert sands and the shimmering surface of the Nile. The dark pigment of kohl would have absorbed much of this intense light, reducing glare and protecting the eyes from the sun's harmful rays. It's like a built-in pair of sunglasses, but way more fashionable and, frankly, a bit more permanent. You try to imagine applying it yourself, perhaps with a small ivory stick, feeling the cool, smooth paste against your skin. It's a ritual, a daily act of both beautification and self-preservation. Think about the sheer reverence for Ra. He was often depicted with the head of a falcon, crowned with a sun disk encircled by a cobra. His power was immense, his presence undeniable. And just as the sun could bring life and warmth, it could also bring scorching heat, drought, and the painful sting of sunburn. For the Egyptians, these adverse effects weren't just random occurrences, they could be interpreted as signs of divine displeasure, or simply the overwhelming power of a god whose benevolent gaze could also be intensely fierce. You watch a priest offering prayers, his hands raised towards the rising sun, acknowledging both its life-giving warmth and its potential for harm. The primary ingredient in most coal was galena, a lead sulfide mineral, often mixed with other substances like malachite, a green copper ore, charcoal, and various oils or fats to create a smooth, applicable paste. While modern science has raised concerns about lead toxicity, the Egyptians likely didn't understand this. What they did understand was its effectiveness in reducing glare and its perceived protective qualities. Some theories even suggest that the lead in coal, when it reacted with the skin's natural salts, produced nitric oxide, which could have helped prevent eye infections, a genuine benefit in a dusty, unsanitary environment. So, you're not just looking fabulous, you're also potentially warding off conjunctivitis. Talk about multitasking. The Egyptians believed that by honoring Ra and other solar deities, they could mitigate the sun's harsher aspects. Rituals, prayers, and offerings were performed daily to ensure Ra's safe passage and his continued benevolence. You might see a family leaving offerings of bread and beer at a small shrine, hoping for a cool breeze or a less intense day in the fields. It was a constant dialogue with the divine, a plea for protection from the very force that sustained them. Beyond coal, you notice the use of red ochre. This natural earth pigment, rich in iron oxides, was used to color lips, cheeks, and even as a body paint. While its primary purpose was aesthetic, adding a healthy flush to the complexion, it too would have offered a degree of physical sun protection. Think of it as a very primitive, natural mineral foundation or blush. The fine particles of ochre would have created a physical barrier on the skin, reflecting and scattering some of the sunlight. You see a woman with a subtle reddish tint on her cheeks, a hint of color that suggests vitality, but also, perhaps, a thin layer of defense against the sun. Beyond Ra, other deities were also associated with the sun or its protective qualities. Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, embodied the scorching heat of the sun, and her fierce aspect was often associated with plague and destruction, but also with healing. Hathor, often depicted with a sun disk between her cow horns, was a goddess of joy, love, and motherhood, but also had a solar aspect and was sometimes invoked for protection. You might see amulets depicting these deities, worn by individuals seeking their divine shield against the sun's intensity. The application of these pigments wasn't haphazard, it was an art form. You see elaborate cosmetic palettes, often carved from slate or stone, used to grind and mix the ingredients. Small spatulas, applicators, and brushes made from wood, bone, or ivory were used to apply the cosmetics with precision. This wasn't a quick dab-and-go routine. It was a deliberate, almost meditative process, often performed in the cool, dim light of a private chamber. Amulets themselves were a common form of personal protection, not just from evil spirits, but also from physical harm, including the sun. Scarab beetles, symbols of rebirth and the rising sun, were popular amulets. The Eye of Horus, a powerful symbol of protection and good health, was also widely worn. While these might not have offered physical sunblock, they provided psychological comfort and a sense of divine guardianship. You might touch a small scarab amulet hanging around your neck, feeling its smooth surface, a silent prayer for protection against the day's heat. It's a blend of the tangible and the intangible, where belief provides a layer of defense. One common historical fact you might know is that both men and women in ancient Egypt used cosmetics extensively. It wasn't limited to one gender, it was a societal norm, deeply embedded in their culture. Pharaohs, priests, and commoners alike adorned themselves with various pigments and oils. This universal adoption underscores the practical benefits, not just the aesthetic ones. You see a male scribe, his eyes rimmed with kohl, his skin gleaming with oil, looking just as carefully groomed as any noblewoman. One common historical fact you might know is that the pharaohs were considered living gods. Directly linked to Ra, they were the intermediaries between humanity and the divine, and their well-being was intrinsically tied to the well-being of Egypt. Therefore, ensuring the pharaoh's protection from the sun, both physically and spiritually, was paramount. This is why you see pharaohs depicted with elaborate headwear and sometimes even sunshades carried by attendants, emphasizing their divine connection and their need for both earthly and heavenly protection. Now, for a lesser-known detail about their cosmetic ingredients. Did you know that some Egyptian cosmetic recipes included ingredients like animal fats, such as beef or goose fat, and beeswax? These weren't just binders, they were emollients that would have provided a layer of moisture and a physical barrier on the skin. Imagine a thick, creamy paste, perhaps infused with fragrant oils being smoothed onto the skin. This fatty layer would have helped to seal in moisture, preventing the skin from drying out and cracking in the arid climate, and also offered a degree of water resistance, making the sun-protective pigments last longer. It's like an ancient, all-natural version of a heavy-duty moisturizer with a built-in, albeit low, SPF. You can almost feel the rich emollient texture, a stark contrast to the dry, dusty air. The Egyptians also used various plant extracts in their cosmetics, not just for fragrance, but for their perceived medicinal and protective properties. Ingredients like frankincense, myrrh, and various floral essences were incorporated into oils and unguents. While their direct sun protective qualities might have been minimal, they often possessed anti-inflammatory or antiseptic properties, which would have been beneficial for skin constantly exposed to the elements and prone to irritation. Imagine a soothing balm, scented with lotus or lily, applied to sun-exposed skin at the end of a long day. It's a holistic approach where beauty, health, and protection were seamlessly integrated. The preparation of these cosmetics was often a domestic affair, particularly for common people. But specialized artisans and priests also played a role, especially for the elite. You might see a woman grinding malachite on a palette, her hands stained with the vibrant green pigment, or a perfumer carefully distilling oils from fragrant plants. It was a craft, passed down through generations, with secret recipes and techniques that were highly valued. The concept of shade itself held spiritual significance. It was seen as a blessing, a place of rest and coolness, often associated with the protection offered by the gods. To be in the shade was to be under divine favor, shielded from the harshness of the world. This spiritual interpretation reinforced the practical need for shade in their daily lives. You feel the deep, cool shadow of a temple wall, and understand that this isn't just a physical relief, but a spiritual one too. The Egyptians' understanding of sun protection was, of course, empirical. They observed that certain substances, when applied to the skin, reduced the discomfort and visible damage caused by the sun. They didn't have UV meters or dermatological studies, but they had centuries of practical experience. Their methods were born out of necessity and refined through observation. It's a bit like how you know putting on a hat helps, even if you can't explain the physics of UV absorption. They just knew it worked. Even the rituals around death and the afterlife were influenced by the sun. The journey of the deceased through the underworld mirrored Ra's nightly voyage, and the hope was for rebirth, like the sun, into an eternal day. Protective spells and amulets placed in tombs were meant to aid the deceased in this journey, ensuring their safe passage through the darkness and into the light. This deep connection between the sun, life, death, and rebirth permeated every aspect of their spiritual existence. Was the primary driver for their elaborate cosmetic use purely aesthetic? Or were the practical health and protective benefits the initial impetus? With beauty becoming a desirable byproduct? It's a chicken and egg question. It's likely that both played a significant role, with the practical benefits reinforcing the cultural acceptance and desirability of cosmetic use. You can almost hear the spirited discussions among Egyptologists, sifting through ancient texts and analyzing cosmetic residues, trying to determine the true motivations behind these ancient beauty rituals. It's a fascinating intersection of culture, science, and survival. Was their elaborate religious system around the sun primarily a direct response to its physical dangers, such as sunburn and heat stroke? Or was it predominantly a reflection of their fundamental dependence on the sun for life, agriculture, and cosmic order, with physical protection being a secondary consideration? It's a complex interplay. It's likely that both aspects were deeply intertwined. The sun was essential for life, but its intensity also posed threats, leading to a holistic approach where practical measures were bolstered by spiritual appeals. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among scholars, analyzing ancient hymns and religious texts, trying to decipher the true motivations behind their profound reverence for the sun. It's a fascinating exploration of how belief systems are shaped by environmental realities. Even the application techniques speak to their protective intent. The thick, dark lines of coal extending beyond the eye would have created a larger shaded area, further reducing glare. The careful application of oils and unguents would have formed a protective film, guarding against both sun and wind. You can picture the meticulousness, the precision, as if each stroke of the applicator was a deliberate act of defense. The very act of building temples and monuments, often oriented towards the sun, was a form of collective prayer and an attempt to harness its power. These structures, while providing physical shade and coolness, were also places where the divine energy of the sun could be channeled and honored. You see the massive pylons of a temple, casting long shadows, and understand that they are not just architectural features, but sacred gateways to the sun god. The very act of wearing these cosmetics was a statement. It wasn't just about personal adornment, it was about presenting a polished, protected self to the world. In a land where the sun was a constant, powerful presence, appearing well-groomed and protected was a sign of care, perhaps even a subtle display of status. Those who could afford the finest ingredients and the time for elaborate application were signaling their ability to mitigate the harsh realities of their environment. The daily cycle of sunrise and sunset was a constant reminder of Ra's power and presence. Each morning, as the sun emerged from the eastern horizon, it was a moment of renewal, a fresh start, and a chance to seek divine favor for protection throughout the day. Each evening, as it dipped below the western horizon, it was a time for reflection and preparation for the challenges of the night and the hope of rebirth. This intimate connection to the sun's rhythm was not just practical, it was deeply spiritual. So, as you observe the ancient Egyptians, you begin to see their cosmetics not as mere vanity, but as an integral part of their survival strategy. The coal, the ochre, the oils, they were all part of a sophisticated, albeit empirically derived, system of sun protection. They understood in their own way that the skin needed a barrier, a shield against the relentless power of Ra. And as the sun continues its slow journey across the sky, casting long, golden shadows, you appreciate the ingenuity of these ancient people, who found beauty and protection in the very earth beneath their feet. So, as you observe the ancient Egyptians, you realize that their defense against the sun was not only a matter of practical ingenuity, but also profound spiritual devotion. They understood that in a land dominated by the sun, seeking divine favor was as crucial as wearing linen or applying coal. Their religious beliefs provided a powerful, invisible shield, a sense of comfort and protection in the face of an overwhelming natural force. And as the day slowly gives way to the cooler evening, you feel a profound respect for their ancient wisdom, their ability to live in harmony with the most powerful forces of nature, both seen and unseen, in their sun-drenched world. You've felt the cool linen, seen the protective coal, and now, as you continue to drift through ancient Egypt, you notice a subtle sheen on the skin of the people around you. It's a luminous glow, not of sweat, but of carefully applied oils and rich fats. This isn't just about moisturization, it's another ingenious layer of defense against the relentless sun and the drying desert air. The ancient Egyptians understood the power of natural emollients, turning the bounty of their land into a sophisticated skincare regimen that protected, soothed, and even healed. You've seen the ancient Egyptians' ingenious ways of battling the sun, from their clothing and cosmetics to their architecture and even their diet and divine appeals. Now, as you continue to observe this fascinating civilization, you begin to notice a subtle yet profound element woven into the very fabric of their sun-protective strategies: social status. In ancient Egypt, the degree of your sun exposure and the methods you employed to avoid it were often a clear indicator of your position in society. Shade wasn't just a comfort, it was a luxury, a symbol, and a testament to your place in the grand hierarchy. Imagine the tactile sensation. You see a woman, after her morning bath in the Nile, gently massaging a fragrant oil into her arms and legs. The oil, perhaps derived from moringa or castor beans, glides smoothly over her skin, leaving behind a subtle, protective film. It feels nourishing, a stark contrast to the parched environment. This daily ritual was as much about comfort and health as it was about beauty. The arid climate of Egypt, coupled with constant exposure to sun and wind, would have quickly stripped the skin of its natural moisture, leading to dryness, cracking, and discomfort. These oils and fats were their answer, a natural barrier that locked in hydration and provided a physical shield. Imagine yourself walking through a bustling market. You see the farmers, their skin deeply tanned and leathery from years of relentless outdoor labor, their simple linen garments offering basic coverage. Then, your gaze drifts towards a procession of nobles, perhaps on their way to a temple. Their skin is noticeably lighter, almost untouched by the sun's harsh kiss. They move under the shade of elaborate parasols, carried by attendants, their fine linen robes flowing around them, often layered for added coolness and modesty. The contrast is striking, a silent visual language communicating wealth, power, and a life lived largely away from the direct glare of Ra. Think about the sheer variety of oils available to them. The fertile Nile Delta and surrounding regions provided a wealth of botanical resources. Moringa oil, extracted from the seeds of the moringa tree, was highly prized. It's light, non-greasy, and known for its moisturizing and anti-inflammatory properties. You can almost smell its delicate, slightly nutty aroma. Castor oil, derived from the castor bean plant, was also widely used, known for its thicker consistency and protective qualities. Even olive oil, though less common than in other Mediterranean cultures, found its place. These weren't just cooking ingredients, they were vital components of their personal care arsenal. Think about the sheer effort involved in maintaining a lighter complexion. It wasn't just about applying kohl or oils, it was about lifestyle. If you were a high-ranking official, a priest, or a member of the royal family, your days were spent largely indoors, within the cool, thick walls of palaces, temples, or grand estates. Your work involved administration, religious duties, or intellectual pursuits, not grueling physical labor under the open sky. This inherent difference in daily activity meant a vastly reduced exposure to the sun, allowing for a naturally paler skin tone. It was a privilege, a visible mark of distinction. You watch a scribe, his skin almost translucent compared to the laborers outside, meticulously writing on a papyrus scroll in a dimly lit, cool room, a world away from the sun-baked field. Beyond plant-based oils, animal fats were also extensively utilized. Beef tallow, goose fat, and even hippopotamus fat, when available, as it were rendered and purified. These fats, with their heavier consistency, would have provided a more robust, occlusive barrier on the skin, particularly useful for those working outdoors for extended periods. Imagine a laborer, his skin covered in a thin layer of rendered fat, glistening under the sun. A practical, albeit perhaps less fragrant, form of sun protection. It's a testament to their resourcefulness, using every available resource to adapt to their environment. The very concept of beauty was intertwined with this social reality. While modern societies often associate tanned skin with health and leisure, in ancient Egypt, a lighter complexion, especially for women, was considered the epitome of beauty and refinement. It signified a life of ease, free from the necessity of outdoor work. This aesthetic preference further incentivized the elite to employ every available means to avoid tanning. It's almost like a reverse tan, where the goal was to be as pale as possible. If you were a noblewoman, your personal attendants might spend hours preparing your skin, applying various unguents and powders, not just for beauty, but to maintain that coveted pale hue. The application wasn't just a quick slather. It was often a deliberate, thorough process. You might see servants applying oils to their masters, or family members assisting one another. The oils were often infused with fragrant resins like frankincense and myrrh, or with extracts from flowers like lotus and lily. These additions not only made the oils more pleasant to use, but also contributed their own medicinal properties, such as anti-inflammatory or antiseptic effects. Imagine the calming scent of myrrh as it's massaged into your skin. A soothing end to a long, sun-drenched day. It's a sensory experience, a moment of self-care in a demanding world. The use of parasols and sunshades was a clear marker of status. You see servants holding large, often beautifully decorated, parasols over their masters and mistresses as they moved outdoors. These weren't just practical items, they were symbols of prestige, announcing the arrival of someone important who was too valuable or too delicate to be subjected to the common sun. Imagine the sheer luxury of having your own personal cloud of shade following you wherever you go. It's like having a portable air-conditioned bubble, but with more style and less electricity. These oily layers worked in several ways to combat the sun's effects. Firstly, they created a physical barrier, a thin film that would reflect some of the sunlight and prevent direct contact with the skin. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, they prevented moisture loss. In the dry Egyptian air, sweat would evaporate almost instantly, leading to rapid dehydration of the skin. The oils and fats acted as an occlusive layer, sealing in the skin's natural moisture and preventing it from drying out, thus maintaining the skin's elasticity and preventing cracking and flaking. Thirdly, some of these natural ingredients, particularly certain plant oils, contain compounds that offer a very low level of natural UV protection, though certainly not comparable to modern sunscreens. It's a subtle, cumulative effect, but every little bit helped. Even the clothing, while universally linen, varied in quality and quantity based on status. The elite wore finer, almost translucent linen, often in multiple layers, which, as we discussed, could provide better insulation and airflow. Their garments were also more voluminous, offering greater coverage and creating more pockets of circulating air. The common laborer, on the other hand, might wear simpler, coarser linen, often just a single kilt or tunic, providing less comprehensive protection. You notice the subtle differences in the weave of the fabric, the way the light catches the finer threads of a noble's robe compared to the rougher texture of a farmer's tunic. One common historical fact you might know is that the ancient Egyptians were pioneers in perfumery. They used these same oils as a base for their exquisite perfumes, infusing them with aromatic resins, flowers, and spices. So, the very substance that protected their skin from the sun also made them smell divine. It's a fascinating overlap between practicality and luxury, where a single product served multiple purposes, enhancing both well-being and social standing. You can almost imagine the subtle, complex fragrances that would have permeated the air in elite households. One common historical fact you might know is that tomb paintings often depict a stark difference in skin tone between men and women, particularly among the elite. Men are typically shown with a reddish-brown complexion, while women are depicted with a much lighter yellowish-white skin. This artistic convention reflects the social reality men. Even elite men had more outdoor responsibilities: hunting, warfare, administration in open courts, while elite women spent most of their time indoors, managing the household and engaging in domestic pursuits. It's a visual shorthand for their respective roles and sun exposure levels. Now for a lesser-known detail about their use of oils. Did you know that some theories suggest they might have used certain plant extracts for their photosensitizing properties? Not to protect from the sun, but perhaps to achieve a desired tan or even for medicinal purposes, while most efforts were aimed at protection. There are hints in some texts about the use of plants like celery or parsley, which contain compounds that can increase skin sensitivity to light. This is a more speculative area, but it highlights the Egyptians' deep experimentation with the natural world and their willingness to explore the full spectrum of a plant's properties. It's a curious counterpoint to their primary goal of sun avoidance, suggesting a nuanced and experimental approach to their environment. Now, for a lesser-known detail about status and shade. Did you know that some wealthy Egyptians even had shaded gardens or courtyards with artificial grottos or covered walkways specifically designed for leisurely strolls without direct sun exposure? These weren't just open spaces, they were meticulously planned microenvironments, often with trellises covered in vines, or even small, shaded pavilions. It was about creating an entire shaded experience, a testament to the lengths they would go to avoid the sun. You might wander into such a garden, feeling the immediate coolness, the dappled light filtering through the leaves, a world away from the intense glare just beyond the garden walls, and it's a true oasis, not just for beauty, but for comfort and protection. The storage of these precious oils and fats was also a careful process. You see beautifully crafted vessels made of alabaster, glass, or faience, designed to keep the contents cool and prevent spoilage. These containers were often sealed with beeswax or resin to maintain freshness. The value placed on these oils is evident in the artistry of their containers, some of which are miniature works of art themselves. It speaks to the importance of these substances in their daily lives. The very architecture of elite homes, with their central courtyards, high walls, and minimal windows, was designed to maximize shade and coolness, effectively creating private, sun-free sanctuaries. These were not just practical considerations. They were also status symbols. The ability to build such a structure and to live a life primarily within its cool confines was a clear indication of wealth and influence. You step into a grand villa, feeling the immediate drop in temperature and understand that this coolness is a product of both clever design and immense resources. The role of these emollients extended beyond daily protection. They were also crucial for treating skin ailments, including those caused by sun exposure. Sunburns, rashes, and dry, irritated skin would have been common. The soothing, anti-inflammatory properties of many of these oils, combined with their moisturizing effects, would have provided significant relief. You can imagine a mother applying a cooling balm to her child's sun-reddened skin, the gentle touch and the soothing properties of the oil bringing comfort. It was their ancient pharmacy, their first line of defense against the discomforts of their environment. Was the preference for lighter skin an inherent aesthetic ideal from the outset? Or was it a direct consequence of social stratification and the practical desire to avoid the sun? With the aesthetic preference developing as a result, it's a classic chicken and egg scenario. It's likely that the practical benefits of sun avoidance for the elite led to lighter skin, which then became associated with leisure and status, thus reinforcing the aesthetic ideal. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among scholars, poring over ancient texts and analyzing artistic depictions, trying to decipher the true origins of this ancient beauty standard. It's a fascinating interplay of environment, society, and perception. Was their primary intention to use these oils as a deliberate sun protective strategy? Or were they primarily focused on moisturization and aesthetic enhancement, with sun protection being an accidental, albeit welcome, side effect? It's a subtle distinction, but an important one for understanding their scientific mindset. It's likely a blend of both, where the immediate, tangible benefits of moisturization and skin health were paramount, and the subtle sun protective qualities were simply an added bonus that reinforced their continued use. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among scholars, poring over ancient papyri and analyzing residues from cosmetic jars, trying to decipher the true intent behind these ancient practices. It's a fascinating puzzle, revealing the layers of their practical wisdom. Even the professions dictated sun exposure. Scribes, priests, artisans working in workshops, and domestic servants within elite households would have had significantly less sun exposure than farmers, fishermen, quarry workers, or soldiers. This occupational stratification directly influenced their skin tone and their need for various sun protective measures. You see a craftsman meticulously carving a statue in a shaded workshop, his skin much paler than the laborers who quarried the stone. Now for a lesser known detail about their religious practices and the sun. Did you know that some temples, particularly those dedicated to solar deities, were designed with specific orientations to capture the sun's rays at certain times of the day or year, often for dramatic illumination of cult statues or altars? While the general architectural principles aimed for coolness, these specific solar alignments were a deliberate way of harnessing and celebrating the sun's divine power. It wasn't about avoiding the sun in these instances, but about inviting its sacred presence in a controlled, reverent manner. You might stand in a dark, cool chamber, waiting for the precise moment when a shaft of sunlight, guided by ancient engineering, illuminates a statue, a powerful reminder of Ra's omnipresence. It's a moment where the fear of the sun gives way to awe and worship. The daily rituals of the elite also reflected their sun avoidance strategies. Their mornings might involve leisurely ablutions and cosmetic application, often indoors. Their meals would be taken in shaded courtyards or cool dining rooms. Their evenings might involve entertainment or social gatherings, again, largely shielded from the sun. It was a life designed to minimize direct contact with Ra's most intense rays. It's a life of calculated comfort, a stark contrast to the sun-drenched existence of the common populace. So, as you continue your journey through ancient Egypt, you realize that every aspect of their lives, from their clothing to their cosmetics and their daily skincare rituals, was meticulously adapted to their environment. The oils and fats, seemingly simple, were powerful tools in their arsenal against the sun's relentless power. They understood, through generations of observation and experimentation, that a well-nourished, protected skin was essential for survival and well-being in their sun-drenched land. And as the day slowly gives way to the cooler evening, you feel a deep appreciation for their ancient wisdom, their ability to thrive in a world so different, yet so fundamentally connected to your own. So, as you observe the ancient Egyptians, you realize that sun protection wasn't just a universal need. It was also a nuanced reflection of their social structure. The ability to avoid the sun, to maintain a lighter complexion, and to enjoy the luxury of shade were powerful indicators of status and privilege. Their world was a testament to how environmental challenges can shape not only practical solutions, but also deeply ingrained social norms and aesthetic ideals. And as the day slowly gives way to the cooler evening, you feel a profound respect for their ancient wisdom, their ability to live in harmony with the most powerful forces of nature, even while navigating the complexities of their own society. You felt the cool linen, seen the protective kohl, and sensed the soothing oils on ancient Egyptian skin. Now, as you continue your journey, you begin to notice something else, something fundamental to their survival in this sun-drenched land, the very structures around you and the rhythm of life within them. The ancient Egyptians weren't just protecting their bodies. They were designing their world, their homes, and their daily routines to be architectural havens against the relentless sun, creating pockets of coolness and shade in a landscape of searing heat. You've journeyed through the sun-drenched landscape of ancient Egypt, observing their intricate dance with Ra, the mighty sun god. You've seen how every facet of their lives, from the simple linen they wore to the grand temples they built, was subtly or overtly influenced by the need to protect themselves from the sun's relentless gaze. Now, as our journey nears its end, you begin to see how these ancient practices, born of necessity and empirical observation, echo through time, offering ancient wisdom that endures even in our hyper-modern world. Imagine walking through a typical ancient Egyptian town. The streets are narrow, winding, and often unpaved, but crucially, the buildings are packed tightly together. They rise up, often 2 or 3 stories high, their mud brick walls a warm, earthy red or brown. These aren't sprawling, open spaces. Instead, the close proximity of the houses creates a labyrinth of shaded alleys and passages. You feel the immediate drop in temperature as you step into one of these shadowed lanes, a welcome respite from the blazing sun overhead. It's a deliberate design, a collective effort to minimize direct sun exposure on the ground level, where much of daily life took place. Imagine standing on a modern beach, slathering on your SPF 50, donning a wide-brimmed hat, and perhaps pulling on a rash guard. You're doing, in essence, what the ancient Egyptians did, just with different materials and a scientific understanding they could only dream of. The core principles remain the same: create a physical barrier, reflect the light, hydrate the skin, seek shade, and adapt your lifestyle. It's a fascinating continuity, a testament to the timeless challenge posed by the sun and humanity's enduring ingenuity in facing it. Think about the materials they used. Mud brick, made from Nile mud mixed with straw and dried in the sun, was the primary building material. While it might seem primitive, mud brick is an excellent insulator. Its dense, thick walls absorb heat slowly during the day and release it gradually at night, keeping the interiors remarkably cool during the scorching daylight hours. You can almost feel the coolness radiating from the thick walls as you press your hand against them. A natural air conditioning system, perfected over millennia. The exterior might be baking, but inside, there's a tangible sense of relief. Think about the linen. Remember that breathable, light fabric that wicked away moisture and reflected the sun? Modern performance fabrics aim for similar qualities, though they use synthetic fibers and complex weaves. But the basic idea of a loose, light-colored garment as a primary defense. That's pure ancient Egyptian wisdom. You might be wearing a light-colored shirt right now, perhaps made of cotton or linen, and unknowingly, You're channeling the spirit of an ancient Egyptian farmer. It's almost like they whispered their secrets across the millennia. Hey, this stuff works. The design of individual homes also speaks volumes about their sun protective strategies. Windows, if present, are typically small, high up on the walls, and often covered with grills or shutters. This minimizes the amount of direct sunlight penetrating the interior, while still allowing for some airflow. You peer into a doorway and notice how dark and cool it is inside, a stark contrast to the brilliant light outside. The focus was on creating deep, cool interiors, almost like caves, where the heat couldn't easily penetrate. It's a clever manipulation of light and shadow, a testament to their practical engineering. And the coal, that striking eye makeup that also served as a glare reducer and a physical barrier. While we now use zinc oxide and titanium dioxide in our sunscreens, the concept of applying a mineral-based paste to reflect or absorb sunlight is remarkably similar. They didn't know about UV rays, but they knew that dark pigments around the eyes reduced squinting and discomfort, and that a thick layer offered some protection. It's like they invented the first sunglasses that were also a fashion statement. If only our modern sunscreens made us look as dramatic. Right? Many homes, especially those of the wealthier Egyptians, featured central courtyards. These open-air spaces were often shaded by awnings, trellises, or even strategically planted trees. The courtyard acted as a heat sink, allowing hot air to rise and escape, while the surrounding rooms remained cooler. Sometimes a small pool or fountain in the center of the courtyard would add a touch of evaporative cooling, further enhancing the microclimate. You can imagine sitting in such a courtyard, the gentle sound of water trickling, a faint breeze rustling through the leaves, a true oasis in the desert heat. It's a luxury, but also a highly functional design element. The oils and fats they used, remember those rich emollients that kept their skin supple and hydrated? Modern moisturizers and sunscreens often contain similar natural oils and fatty acids, along with chemical UV filters. The ancient Egyptians understood the importance of maintaining the skin's barrier function in a dry, sunny environment, even if their understanding was purely practical. They were the original skincare gurus, long before serums and hyaluronic acid became a thing. They just used what nature provided, and it worked. Roofs were often flat and used for various purposes, sleeping during cooler nights, storing goods, or even as additional living space during the milder seasons. But during the day, they were often covered with mats or awnings to provide shade. You might see people retreating to their rooftops in the evening, seeking the slight breeze and the open sky after a day spent in the enclosed coolness of their homes. Consider their architectural marvels, the thick mud brick walls, the narrow streets, the central courtyards, the wind catchers, all designed to create cool, shaded havens. This passive cooling technology is now being rediscovered and implemented in sustainable architecture around the world. Architects today study these ancient designs, recognizing their brilliance in creating comfortable living spaces without relying on energy-intensive air conditioning. It's like they had a blueprint for eco-friendly living thousands of years ago, and we're just now catching up. Oh, you mean we don't need to blast the AC all day? Fascinating. Beyond the static architecture, the daily rhythms of ancient Egyptian life were intrinsically linked to sun avoidance. Work, especially heavy labor in the fields or on construction sites, often began at dawn, before the sun had climbed too high and too fiercely. You see the farmers heading out as the first light touches the horizon, their movements brisk in the relative coolness of the morning. They would toil through the early hours, making the most of the milder temperatures. The importance of headwear, too, is a timeless lesson. From wide-brimmed hats to scarves and hoods, covering the head and neck remains a fundamental recommendation for sun protection. The ancient Egyptian wigs, while elaborate, served this very purpose, creating a dense, insulating barrier. They understood that the scalp was vulnerable, and they devised effective, albeit sometimes heavy, solutions. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best, even if they involve a wig that weighs more than your cat. As the sun approached its zenith, typically around midday, activities would slow down significantly. This was the time for rest, for meals, for seeking the deepest shade available. Laborers would pause their work, retreating to temporary shelters or the shade of a large rock. You might see families gathering indoors, enjoying a leisurely meal in the cool confines of their mud brick homes. The hottest part of the day was a period of enforced idleness, a necessary adaptation to the environment. It's a natural siesta, not born of laziness, but of sheer survival. And their diet, that subtle inner defense, the emphasis on fresh fruits, vegetables, and fish, rich in antioxidants, aligns perfectly with modern nutritional advice for skin health. We now understand the science behind how these nutrients help combat oxidative stress from UV radiation. They just knew that eating well made them feel better and probably looked better too. It's a testament to the enduring power of a whole food diet, proving that your grandma's advice about eating your greens was, in fact, ancient wisdom. Work would often resume in the late afternoon or early evening. As the sun began its descent and the air started to cool, this allowed for another productive period before nightfall. The entire society seemed to operate on a solar clock, a rhythm dictated by the sun's intensity. A collective understanding that fighting the sun directly was futile. It was better to work with its natural cycle. One common historical fact you might know is the incredible longevity of ancient Egyptian civilization. It endured for thousands of years, far longer than many empires that followed. Part of this enduring success can be attributed to their profound ability to adapt and innovate in response to their environment. Their sun protective strategies were not isolated practices, but integral components of a holistic approach to survival and well-being in a challenging climate, contributing to the overall health and resilience of their population over millennia. One common historical fact you might know is the incredible precision and scale of ancient Egyptian monumental architecture, like the pyramids and temples. What's often overlooked is that these massive structures were also designed with sun protection in mind. Their thick, solid stone walls provided immense thermal mass, absorbing heat slowly and keeping the interiors remarkably cool, even in the height of summer. The narrow, dark passages and chambers within the pyramids and temples were naturally cool, offering a refuge from the external heat. You step into a temple, and the air immediately feels different, cooler, heavier, a testament to the insulating power of the massive stone blocks. Now, for a lesser-known detail about the enduring legacy, did you know that some modern cosmetic companies and dermatological researchers are actively studying ancient Egyptian cosmetic recipes? Not just for historical interest, but for potential new ingredients or formulations. They are analyzing residues from ancient pots and papyri, hoping to uncover forgotten compounds or synergistic effects that could have genuine benefits for modern skincare, including natural sun protection. It's a fascinating bridge between ancient alchemy and cutting-edge science, proving that sometimes the oldest secrets are the ones waiting to be rediscovered. You can almost imagine a modern scientist peering through a microscope at a tiny fragment of ancient coal, murmuring, what did they know that we don't? Now, for a lesser-known detail about their architectural adaptations. Did you know that some ancient Egyptian homes and public buildings incorporated rudimentary forms of wind catchers or malkafs? These were vertical shafts or towers built on the roof, designed to capture prevailing winds and funnel them down into the interior spaces, creating a natural ventilation system. In some cases, these shafts would pass over a pool of water or a damp area, cooling the air through evaporation before it entered the rooms. It's an ingenious, passive cooling technique that predates modern air conditioning by millennia. You might not immediately spot them, but if you look closely at some reconstructed models or ancient plans, you can see these subtle yet effective features, a silent testament to their advanced environmental engineering. It's a quiet innovation, often overshadowed by the grandeur of their temples, but equally vital for daily comfort. The very idea of seeking shade, of altering your daily routine to avoid the harshest sun, is a universal human response to heat. The ancient Egyptians formalized this into their daily rhythms, their work schedules, and their social norms. This conscious adaptation, rather than brute forcing through the heat, is a lesson in living in harmony with nature, a concept that resonates deeply in our environmentally conscious world. They didn't fight the sun, they danced with it, moving gracefully through its powerful embrace. The orientation of buildings was also considered, while not always perfectly aligned due to urban planning constraints, There's evidence that architects tried to orient structures to minimize direct western sun exposure in the afternoon when the heat was most intense. Courtyards and main living areas were often positioned to benefit from morning sun for light, but to be shaded during the hottest parts of the day. It wasn't just about aesthetics or religious alignment, it was about practical comfort and energy efficiency. Ancient style. This brings us to a point of academic debate. Historians still debate whether the ancient Egyptian understanding of sun protection methods was an advanced form of empirical science or simply a collection of effective practices passed down through generations without a deep understanding of the underlying principles. Was their knowledge of sun protection an advanced form of empirical science? A deliberate process of experimentation and observation? Or merely a collection of effective practices passed down through generations without a deeper understanding of the underlying principles? It's a profound question about the nature of ancient knowledge. It's likely a combination of both keen observation leading to effective solutions, which were then codified and passed down, perhaps without the theoretical framework we demand today. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among scholars, debating whether ancient ingenuity constitutes science in the modern sense, or if it was something more intuitive, more deeply connected to lived experience. It's a fascinating exploration of the boundaries of human knowledge across time. Even the simple act of growing plants played a role. Gardens, where they existed, were often designed to provide shade for adjacent structures. Date palms, with their broad fronds, were particularly effective. The shade they cast was dense and inviting, a natural canopy that offered relief from the direct sun. You see a small garden patch, perhaps with a few fig trees and date palms, and immediately feel the protective embrace of their shade. Even their spiritual connection to the sun, their reverence for Ra, offers a lesson. While we may not worship solar deities, the acknowledgement of the sun's immense power and its dual nature, life-giver and potential hazard, is a truth that remains. They integrated this understanding into their daily lives, their rituals, and their very worldview. It was a constant reminder to respect the sun, not just fear it. Was the dense, compact nature of their settlements a deliberate, conscious strategy for sun avoidance? Or was it simply an organic development driven by the need to live close to the fertile banks of the Nile, with sun protection being an accidental benefit? It's a complex question, as both factors undoubtedly played a role. The Nile provided life, but the sun dictated how that life could be lived. It's likely a symbiotic relationship, where the necessity of the river dictated location, and the intensity of the sun shaped the architectural response. You can almost hear the quiet discussions among archaeologists, analyzing settlement patterns and urban layouts, trying to decipher the true motivations behind these ancient city designs. It's a fascinating interplay of environmental necessity and human ingenuity. So, as you slowly drift back from the sun-drenched sands of ancient Egypt, you carry with you the echoes of their wisdom. You realize that the challenges they faced and the solutions they devised are not so different from our own. They were masters of adaptation, living in profound harmony with their environment, using every available resource to protect themselves from the relentless power of Ra. Their legacy isn't just in the pyramids and the hieroglyphs. It's in the timeless principles of sun protection that continue to guide us today. The concept of indoor-outdoor living was also prevalent, but always with an eye on the sun. While courtyards and rooftops offered open-air spaces, they were utilized strategically. During the day, the cool, dark interiors were preferred. As the sun set and the air cooled, people would move outdoors, enjoying the evening breeze and the starry sky. This fluid transition between indoor and outdoor spaces was a natural adaptation, maximizing comfort throughout the day and night. Now, let the visions of ancient Egypt fade away. You have come a long way from the sunlit fields to the shady temples, and you have seen how a great civilization lived in harmony with the sun. Feel the comfort of your bed, the softness of your pillows, and the silence of the night. The murmur of conversation is now just a distant echo, gently lulling you to sleep. All the worries of the long day are slipping away, fading into the soft darkness. Take a deep breath and feel the peace envelop you. You are safe, enveloped in the silence of the night. Let your mind rest, and sweet dreams will come. Even the smallest details, like the thickness of a wall or the placement of a doorway, were part of this grand strategy. There was an inherent wisdom in their building practices, passed down through generations, that understood the nuances of their climate. They didn't have complex climate models, but they had centuries of lived experience, observing what worked and what didn't.